In 2014, the three legacy Canadian professional accounting bodies amalgamated to become Chartered Professional Accountants. Shortly afterwards, in 2015, they launched a new Accounting Technologist Certificate program. The Advanced Certificate in Accounting and Finance lasted only 4 years before it had to be pulled. As a practitioner working primarily for small technology companies, it was clear to me that a technologist program was needed. So why did it fail? Formerly, I've worked as a senior manager with two of Canada's largest accounting firms. In my view, we failed because our eyes were bigger than our stomachs. CPAs are experts in accounting, tax, and audit. Because we measure financial performance, we managed to convince ourselves that we're better at managing than we really are. To some extent, CPAs have tried to become the professional services equivalent of Amazon founder Jeff Bezos's everything store. The biggest firms that dominate the profession derive more of their revenue from consulting services than anything else. At the Small Business Analyst Society of Canada, our approach is more modest. We don't actually believe in management science. For our part, we believe that management is a social science. And as such, it isn't so much taught as learned. While universities do a great job of teaching the social sciences, they haven't learned or figured out that they're not really vocational schools. Rudimentary accounting and business compliance can and must be learned on the job. The Business Analyst Technician program was designed to meet the needs of both small business and the public accounting industry for skilled technicians that can assist in accounting and regulatory compliance. In this course, we're trying to introduce students to the fundamentals of accounting. These days, even very small businesses use accounting software to do the books. However, that's not a great way to learn the fundamentals of accounting. If you let the computer do all the work, it can end up becoming a bit of a black box. The good news is that although we won't use accounting software, we will use the computer to compile the results. But we'll use commercial spreadsheets instead of accounting software. In that way, we're forced to provide the logic ourselves. Once we're done, we'll have built our own set of accounting algorithms, which is, after all, the point of the course. Also, it's not like we actually have to record transactions. Instead, our bank or credit card company will do most of the work. All we have to do is get our client to download and categorize the transactions from the bank. Then we'll summarize them and the transactions and then afterwards post them to a computerized working trial balance that we build ourselves. Perhaps surprisingly, this approach to accounting for very small businesses is often much more efficient than relying on the business itself to do its own bookkeeping. That's because a great many small businesses attempt to automate the process without any understanding of rudimentary accounting principles. We will get our students to do this work under the guidance of a CPA who's doing the year-end for a small business client. The intention is to give the student practical, real-world exposure to the entire accounting cycle for a small business.
Indirect tax is what our biggest firms call sales taxes. Neither academics nor CPAs are usually very good at sales taxes. We believe that it is a question of status. Most of the time, bookkeepers with little or no training pick up the necessary tax compliance knowledge to work with the 14 different provincial, territorial, and federal governments in Canada. In this course, we provided a broad overview of the basics. However, indirect taxes are a bit of a moving target. Technicians need a rudimentary understanding. Most important, they need to know where to look for answers and how to keep up with regulatory changes.
Like indirect tax, payroll is often considered the domain of bookkeepers, and expertise in payroll is often seen as beneath the likes of PhDs or CPAs. In this course, we provided a broad overview of the basics. However, payroll, like sales taxes, is a bit of a moving target. Technicians need a rudimentary understanding. Most important, they need to know where to look for answers and how to keep up with regulatory changes. This course was designed to provide a basic understanding of Canada's legal system for business analyst technicians. Our legal system is complex and has many moving parts. It's not realistic to expect us to become lawyers or legal experts. In fact, even lawyers focus on particular areas of law. We can, however, become better consumers of legal services and know when we need to engage in a professional to help us. Our primary textbook was actually written by an American, Rachel Spooner, associate professor at Boston College. There are, of course, differences between US and Canadian law. There are also similarities, however, since most English-speaking countries have English common law built into the DNA of their legal systems. Her textbook is very good value and includes a set of pre-recorded lectures as well as accompanying notes. Since many Canadian businesses deal with customers and suppliers in the US law is relevant. In addition, many of the principles and precedents are applicable in Canada as well. Our intention is to use Rachel Spooner's textbook as a starting point and compare with Canadian sources to determine where differences exist. This course contains publicly available information from the internet published by a variety of sources that include reputable law firms as well as federal and provincial government websites. There is also an online resource covering all Canadian legislation as well as a significant amount of case law. Of course, the problems we look at are often complex. We hope that students will gain an appreciation of the difficulty of many of these issues and eventually, as managers or practitioners, understand when it is appropriate to seek professional advice.
Compiling a set of financial statements can be a little iterative. Before we complete a set of financials and a corporate tax return, CPAs invariably produce a supporting working paper file to show how the balances were computed. Most accountants like to work outside of the general ledger to mock up and test the financials before posting year-end adjustments to the GL itself. This is just as true today with computerized accounting software as it was in the time of physical ledger cards. Of course, our old-fashioned, manual working paper files have mostly been replaced by computer-based replicas. They were surprisingly efficient, but didn't easily allow for collaboration between staff often working remotely. In Canada, we developed a computerized working paper software package called Caseware, which is widely used here and around the world, and has been since around 1989 or 1990. At CPA Canada, we developed our own functionally equivalent application using Microsoft Excel and a content management system called ShareFile. Students will learn first how the application was put together, and then they will learn how to use it to put together annual working paper files for a small business.